Hi, this is Svetlana from Beidou Cosplay and welcome to the second part of my cosplay crafting adventure with Hoyoverse for the game Genshin Impact. In the previous video, you actually saw how I made the costume for Beidou, the captain of the Crux, and today you're actually going to see how my lovely husband Benni is actually making her iconic sword, the Blackcliff Slasher. If you have no idea what I'm even talking about, Genshin Impact is a super fun open world adventure game for mobile, console and PC. It has an amazing storyline that is constantly evolving and has so many cool characters to choose from. I'm especially excited for the huge 3.0 update and the new region Sumeru. All the new characters have a super pretty design and I think especially Dea looks awesome. But no character is as cool as Beidou, which is why I chose her for my project. I absolutely love her look, her character and her story. Plus, she carries a huge claymore, which Benni is going to build for me today. And if you're interested to check out Genshin Impact as well, please use the link in our video description down below. This totally helps us with collaborations like these. Thanks so much for all your support. And now it's time for crafting. Since these two images are Beidou's official artworks, picking the Blackcliff Slasher to fit my project was the obvious choice. Its design and color scheme in black, red and white is also really amazing, so this will be perfect for posing in costume later. Originally I planned to build it using EVA foam, but since we only had 6 weeks to finish the whole project, and I was mostly busy sewing, Benni offered to make the sword for me. I think I just let him explain from here on out.
Hello, Benni here. As always with large props like these, I started by printing out a paper dummy. This helped us figuring out the right size, 160 cm. Okay, let's do this. Since I'm terribly clumsy with EVA foam, I decided to stick to something I know, 3D printing. We have 4 different printers already, so might as well put them to use, right? After a bit of research, I actually found the in-game model of the sword. But as you can see, it had such a low resolution that printing it out would not work at all. I needed something more detailed. Now usually I would just sit down and spend some time modeling this myself. But since we were kinda short on time and there were already many 3D models available, why do the same work again? I looked at a few different models, but the one I liked the most was this one here from BrunenG on cults3d.com. I put a link to it in the video description for you. It actually came pre-sliced, which was nice. But since our printers were smaller than the pieces here, I still had to stick parts of it back together and slice them all over again. Here you can see my final plan though. In total, these were 40 pieces that needed to be printed. I also made space for 4 different sized fiberglass pipes that would come in the middle for extra stability, but more on that later. First, let's get this party started. Most of the printing work was done in ABS and on our 2 Zortrex M200 machines. I really love these printers, they are very reliable and the quality is great. Each part took around 10 to 15 hours to complete, so they were running non-stop for quite a while. After every step, I took out the model, cleaned the plate and started the next piece. Or did it again because the print orientation was wrong or the printer messed it up. 3D printing is not easy. Altogether, the whole sword combined would take more than 150 hours to be printed. The blade slices obviously took the longest as well. At least we could do other stuff while the printers were working, so that was nice. Then, after running straight for around 2 weeks, everything was done, and I could finally start post-processing the pieces. First, the support material had to be clipped off, which was super easy with ABS. Here you can finally see all the individual pieces lined up. This was also the first time I realized how large this print would end up being. And it was pretty large. Prints looked good though, so let's put them together next. As my glue, I always use a self-made ABS slushy, which is basically my leftover ABS support material melted in acetone. It's so strong that once it's cured, the pieces will not come apart anymore. It's really nice. After connecting a few of the pieces, I started sanding. The first pass I always do with a triangle sander. This handy machine takes away like 90% of the layer lines, and after I'm done, which still took many hours, it's usually enough to just go over the rest with a sanding sponge. Then, after gluing a few more parts together and sticking it on a fiberglass rod, my first test assembly looked promising. Time to glue it all together permanently. As I mentioned at the beginning, the core of my sword was one large and 3 smaller fiberglass pipes. I used these as my guide to stick together the blade and make sure everything lined up perfectly. When modeling the holes in the 3D model, I gave them only like half a millimeter of space, just enough so that when I applied superglue to it, they would still fit inside. This work step was still very scary though. However, it worked, and Svetlana was happy. Let's continue. To remove most of the glue seams on my blade, I applied this spot putty. It just needs a few minutes to dry, and after around half an hour it could be sanded off again. One other additional thing I did was also to enforce the tip by applying a 2-part resin. Svetlana needed to be able to slam the sword on the ground without being afraid to break off the tip. So I applied 2 thick layers here and sanded down the surface until it was smooth again. A couple of the smaller details of the sword I printed with our resin printer though. These pieces only had to be sanded gently and then glued on with superglue to the rest of the blade. Nice, it looked good so far, but there was still more work to be done. Automotive spray primer came next. 1 good layer of this, and after a few hours of curing time, I could sand it smooth again. Time was slowly running out though, so after just 1 appliance, I checked the surface and decided it had to be good enough. I wanted the upcoming paint job to be really thick, sturdy and shiny. So instead of using airbrush like always, I decided to go with rattle can spray paint only this time. Applying a black base was the first step. 1 good coat was enough to cover everything. This brand of paint turned out to be really reflective, so I guess we'll see how good I sanded everything soon. As you can see, it was not 100% perfect, but good enough I think. If I had more time, I would probably have done another pass of spray filler and sanding though. But oh well. Time to apply some masking tape for the next coat. Nice! On top of the black, now came some red. I just love how with rattle can spray paint you only need 1 good layer to cover everything. Just masking of the giant blade of my sword though actually took me a couple of hours. Plus I needed to do this for both sides. Oh well. If you're wondering, 1 can of black and 1 can of red was enough for the whole sword to be painted. Then, while my blade was still drying, I already began unmasking the grip of my sword. Luckily, my preparations were thorough, so I did not have to fix a lot here. I think it actually turned out pretty nice. To connect all the finished pieces, I first superglued in my fiberglass pipe, and then added some ABS slushy and even more superglue. Not scary at all. Same process for the last one as well. My grip was almost done. I just had to paint these small additional details and glue them into place too. What do you think? The handle was now done and I really liked the shiny surface. The freshly dried blade still had to be finished though. After applying more tape, my final layer of paint was white. Each coat of this actually needed between 8 to 12 hours to fully cure, so painting the sword ended up taking me several days. The only problem with this though was that my masking tape was stuck on my sword for way longer than it should be on there. So when I finally took it off, that tape had already damaged the paint, as you can see on the black parts here. But mistakes happen, and the only way for me to fix this was to completely wet sand over the entire surface again. Oh lucky me. Then, to make it glossy again, I applied a layer of satin spray varnish, and luckily this fixed most of it. Unfortunately, I also had to fix a lot of the red and white parts with my airbrush and by hand. In the end, this took me additional 3 days, but at least the sword now looked nice and shiny. Guess you can't get lucky all the time. Okay, almost done. Now to assemble the blade and the handle. More ABS slushy, more superglue, and snap. Done. Oh, one final detail that I almost forgot was this funny tassel at the end. I just bought one in red, painted the top black with a Copic marker, stuck everything together with some rope, and superglued it to the grip. Perfect! And with this, Beidou's Blackcliff Slasher was actually complete. Svetlana was happy and could finally take some awesome pictures dressed up completely in her finished costume. So I think my overall mission was a success. Thanks for listening, and now back to Svetlana.
Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the crafting process of this really pretty butter knife. I think Benni did an absolutely amazing job, and I totally love how the Blackcliff Slasher turned out. I think he did such a good job. And after you saw how much time and effort and sweat Benni put actually into creating the sword, do you also think that 3D printing is actually cheating? Because I hear this from so many people, and I think those people actually never did 3D printing themselves. So I would totally love to hear your opinion as well. So please leave me a comment down below. And finally, thanks so much to Hoyoverse and Genshin Impact for this super cool collaboration. I absolutely love the game. I absolutely love Beidou. She is amazing, and it was super fun to bring her to life. And if you want to check out Genshin Impact as well, just click on the link in the video description down below. The game is for free, it's super fun, and especially this helps us with collaborations like this. And last but not least, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And let me know if you have any feedback, any questions or anything. And if you don't know what to write in the comments, just write down Corgi and join the Corgi squad and support us this way with the YouTube algorithm. And yeah, until then, see you in the very next video. Thank you very much for watching, and bye bye.